What if I told you that one movement of a right foot, a tiny roll of the ankle, has the entire NASCAR Cup Series field absolutely rattled? Not a new engine, not a magic tire, a foot. Shane van Gisbergen has won 6 of the last 7 road course races in the series. 6 out of 7. And the sport's response hasn't been to get faster. It's been to quietly reshuffle the rulebook and the gearing, so the gap he opens up gets a little bit smaller. Officially, it's about competition. Unofficially, a lot of people in the paddock reckon it's technical sabotage, a way to protect the American Oval boys from getting embarrassed by a Kiwi who learned this stuff on the mountain. So today we're pulling the whole thing apart. The gearbox, the footwork, and the quiet rule tweaks NASCAR would rather you didn't notice. First, you've got to understand the weapon these blokes are fighting with, because it's not the same weapon SVG grew up with. The Next Gen Cup car runs an X-Track P1334 transaxle, 5-speed, manual, sequential. It lives at the back of the car, bolted to the rear, driven by a carbon prop shaft off a clutch shaft up front. That rearward layout lets the driver sit closer to the center line, which is a genuine safety win. Here's the key bit, though. It's sequential. You shove the lever forward or pull it back, but it kept a proper clutch pedal. 3 pedals in the box. Now compare that to the Supercar SVG, spent a decade taming. Same sequential idea, but that car ran a locked or heavily preloaded diff. Nasty. Aggressive. The rear end wants to bite you every single corner. And that difference is the whole story. Because the way you drive a locked diff weapon is fundamentally different to the way you drive this thing. SVG didn't learn a technique. He was forced to survive one, and that survival instinct is exactly what makes him an absolute weapon on a road course now. Right. Watch the feet. This is where it gets special. Everyone else in this field brakes with their left foot on a road course. Modern NASCAR guys came up left foot braking because the old cars let them. Clean, simple, one job per foot. SVG doesn't do that. SVG brakes with his right foot, and while that foot is mashing the brake, he rolls the outside edge of it over to blip the throttle. Heel and toe, old school, proper racing. Why does that matter? 2 reasons, and they're both brutal. Number 1, the blip matches engine revs to the gear he's dropping into. No lurch, no shock through the drive line, no rear wheels stepping out under brakes. The car stays planted while everyone else is fighting a twitch. Number 2, and this is the sneaky one, he's playing the clutch. Parker Kligerman clocked it at Sonoma. SVG feathering that clutch pedal, a little third foot dance to take engine braking load off the rears. When his rivals lock a rear and start sliding, he taps the clutch, gets the wheels rolling again, and just carries on like nothing happened. His own rookie teammate Connor Zilisch said it best. You never see him slip a tire. Out of the slow stuff, everybody else is flat to the boards. ASVG's not even at full throttle. He's saving the car. And then when he decides to go, he goes. That's not luck. That's a bloke doing a footwork routine his rivals physically cannot copy. Ross Chastain tried it, said his feet were on the wrong pedals. He can hold it for 3 corners, then 30 years of muscle memory drags him back. Joey Logano started a Watkins Glen weekend right foot braking and bailed by practice. Austin Cindric flew to Adelaide and ran a Supercars wild card just to learn it. They can watch every bit of his data. NASCAR's SMT system is an open book. They can see exactly what he's doing. They just can't do it. Now here's where you think the story ends. Genius Kiwi, jealous field, roll credits. But there's a second layer, and this is the bit nobody's talking about because NASCAR can't ban footwork. There's no rule you can write that says you must brake with the correct foot, so they can't touch SVG directly. What they can do is change the environment the whole battle happens in. Look at the 2026 technical bulletins. NASCAR's rolling out a horsepower bump and a low downforce package across every road course and short track, around 30% less downforce at those venues, and 5 tracks moving into the road course/short track configuration. Now think about what less downforce does. It makes the car slide more. it rewards throttle control and tire management even harder. And here's the twist that should terrify the field. That's not a nerf to SVG, that's a buff. The messier the car gets, the more a bloke who can save a sliding rear with a clutch tap actually pulls away. NASCAR wanted the racing gnarlier and more old school, and in doing that, they may have accidentally handed the road course master an even bigger stick. So what actually saves his rivals? Not the new package, it's the boring stuff, the open torque biasing diff in the Next Gen box. SVG said it himself. In the Supercar, the locked diff forced the footwork you had to work the clutch and the rear brake or the thing would spit you off. In the Cup car, the diff's open. You can run heaps more front brake bias. You don't really get rear lockup, which means, and this is out of his own mouth, the technique isn't even worth as much here as everyone thinks. He reckons people overthink it. Read between the lines that the spec gearbox, the thing NASCAR chose for cost and safety, is quietly flattening the exact advantage SVG spent his whole career sharpening. The rulebook isn't sabotaging him with a targeted ban. It's protecting the field by accident through a diff and a brake bias sheet. It's the heel and toe war was half won before he ever turned a lap. So here's the uncomfortable question. If the car's open diff already softens the gap and the manual, the clutch, the heel and toe are becoming less relevant every season, what is NASCAR actually building? Because think about where this trends. Every generation, the car gets easier to drive at the limit. Dale Jr. said the Next Gen almost handles too well, too much like a GT car. Denny Hamlin, a bloke who won Mexico City right foot braking 20 years ago, says he can't even see a young driver coming up who'd bother learning the hard way anymore. Why would they? The car forgives them. And that's the sole question. NASCAR was built on cars that fought back, on drivers who had to dance on the pedals just to keep the thing pointed. When you engineer that fight out of the car, or when the diff does the saving instead of the driver, you make the racing tidier. But do you make it better? Here's the brutal irony to sit with. SVG is the best advertisement for driver skill this sport has had in years. A bloke who wins on pure craft, on footwork the whole field can see and still can't copy. He's living proof that the human still matters, and the way the sport's trending spec box, open diff, easier cars is slowly making that exact craft matter less. So I'll leave it with you. Now, if the only reason SVG still dominates is that he's a freak of talent in a car that no longer demands it, then when the last locked diff and the last three-pedal fight disappears for good, is NASCAR protecting the racing? Or is it quietly killing the very thing that makes a driver worth watching? Drop it below. Is SVG a genius the rulebook is scared of? Or is the field taking the piss, hiding behind a spec gearbox that's doing half their work for them? Tell me straight, I read every one. If you want the deep technical breakdowns nobody else's game to do, you know what to do. Full tilt next week. Cheers.